can watch all five and feel like it is of whole cloth, and it is not. We're not making a thing that is totally existing on its own.
What? This is crazy. Like it's doing things that we haven't seen done in horror.
This isn't funny, Amber.
Would you like to play a game, Tara?
Thank you guys for having me. I hope you're having a great morning today.
You as well.
I mean, I just saw the trailer and it looks great. I mean, I really love it. And it's really amazing watching the original cast reunite once again. So how did you manage to gather this original cast? Was there someone that was a little bit harder to convince?
No, I mean, the credit for getting the trio back together, I think really goes to Jamie and Guy's script. They wrote a great script with great characters. And I think that's, at the end of the day, if that exists, everything else is because of that. And they created a step forward for all three of them that still made a lot of sense based on where they had been, these stories we've all seen. They all got on board. And then throughout the process, they all gave a lot of great notes, a lot of input, kind of kept us honest in terms of who Sydney, Gale, and Dewey are. And really just, for us, just made the whole thing surreal.
And definitely, like, a lot of things has changed since the first film in the 90s, and also like the decade that we saw the next films. I think like the world is literally a different place, although there are some things that never change, and like the fear and excitement of people towards serial killers. So how did you work to keep the essence of the franchise, but also create something new to speak to a new generation?
And that's a really good observation. I mean, I think that the challenge of making any sort of movie in a franchise is finding a way to kind of make it fresh and make it original. And obviously the world between 1996 and now has, like you said, it's totally different, and it's evolved in more ways than I think any of us could list. But I think at the core, what makes the Scream movies great, and what makes, we think, what we just made really fun and feel like a Scream movie, is that there are really great characters at the heart of it. That's the thing that along the way, regardless of how we progress with technology and in all of the other ways that you can imagine, at the end of the day, like a character in peril, someone that you love who is facing an impossible force, like that is something that is so universal and so easy to connect to.
Samantha, I know who you are. I've been through this a lot.
You said it yourself, since the beginning, since the first film, the franchise has been very aware of all these scary movie cliches. So I will allow myself to make a cliche question as well. So can you share with me one of your biggest challenge in the process of creating this new movie?
Setting COVID aside, because COVID was probably the biggest challenge, but that was what it was. But I think the biggest challenge for us was just making sure. It was a challenge, but a challenge that I think excites us, is making sure that we're making an authentic Scream movie. That this movie, you can watch all five and feel like it is of whole cloth. And it is not, we're not making a thing that is totally existing on its own. We know how indebted we are to Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson and the world they created, to Sydney, Dewey, Gale. We want to do that justice. We are fans first. We were fans way before we got involved with this, obviously. And I think for us, that challenge was, how do we step into those shoes, do it justice, without also simultaneously, because part of what Scream does so well, right, is it pushes boundaries and it's subversive. It tells you it's going to go one way and it goes the other way. Mm-hmm. And so how can we do that? How can we do those two things simultaneously? And I think one of the greatest gifts we got from what Kevin and Wes created, the ability to let that go and just know that the thing that might be challenging or subversive is the exact reason it should be the thing that's in Scream, as opposed to trying to play it safe and stay on the guard.
You ready for this? Never.
Oh, stop! Wait!
And something really interesting since the first film is that the movie walked also like in a very thin line between being like a really scary movie and also funny. You know, it's constantly really funny. But I imagine that writing a story like that, like really finding the proper balance between something scary and something funny, must be like really hard to achieve. Was it hard for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's the big challenge, and it's the thing that we really set out to. And I think every day, you know, we're kind of gut checking each other, and I had the writers, you know, to sort of keep us honest with the tone, is finding a way for all of that stuff to coexist, for the humor and the genuine horror to coexist. And you know, I think at the end of the day, it just comes back to character, you know, and are these characters that feel grounded and feel real and like they exist in the world that's familiar to you and I, and that they're interacting with the sort of obstacles in their lives the way you or I would interact with that stuff. And I think life is like weirdly funny, even when it's like at its worst. it's weirdly funny, right? Like being a human is a bizarre thing. We've also found that weirdly, you know, when you're scared, it's easier to laugh, and when you're laughing, it's easier to be scared. Like all of those things work really, really well together and kind of coexist in a way that, you know, is definitely a huge part of what makes us such huge fans of the Scream movies. And that balance was in this movie from the script stage. Like we read it, and you know, on our first read, we were like, what? This is crazy. Like it's doing things that we haven't seen done in horror. And it's also just, the characters are so funny in the way that they're interacting with each other and their sort of points of view on the world.
Really looking forward to watch the movie. It looks great on the first trailer. So congratulations. And thank you so much for your time and talking to me.
Thank you.
It was great talking with you. Bye, Gabby.
Thanks.
Hello.